Why do you want to change? No, really, give me at least 3 solid reasons for why you need to get out of the place that you're in. If you can't, then stop watching this video because it's not for you. Come back when you're actually sick of your own excuses. Hi, I'm Jessica, and today I'm here to be brutally honest and unfiltered with you. Sorry to say, but nobody cares about your excuses or how unfair life has been to you. Do you think you're the only one who's had it hard? Life is unfair to everyone. The difference is some people use it as fuel and others use it as an excuse. And if you still have the luxury of living in victimhood, that's privilege talking, because people in survival mode don't even get that option. I grew up in a small town where a lot of me and my friends grew up with a lot of chaos in our homes, and I even experienced SA at a young age, and everyone that I hung out with, we connected over our trauma. Yet here's the difference. I decided to make something out of those circumstances, decided to study psychology, become an advocate for other survivors, and pulled myself out of that cycle and left that sad town full of repeating patterns. Meanwhile, I still know so many people who are still stuck, addicted, bitter, waiting for the government, society, or their family to save them because life was unfair. They feel like the world owes them something now. They took what happened to them as an excuse to stop trying, while I decided to use it as fuel. That's the brutal truth. While it's not your fault for the things that happen to you outside of your control, it is your responsibility to recover, to rebuild, and to still become a good person. Your past is not an excuse. It should be your fuel, and there are no other options. We have to. You either change or you stay a victim. Show me the past. Go ahead. Try to point to it. You can't, because it doesn't actually exist anywhere but in your head anymore. Yet so many of you are still letting it control your entire life. You're not haunted by what happened. You're haunted by your own thoughts about what happened. The reality is, the more you replay it, the more your body actually lives it, like it's still happening. That's why you stay sick and anxious and depressed, because you've taught your body to stay in survival mode over something that isn't even here anymore. And honestly, one of the reasons I originally wanted to become a licensed therapist, and why I still consider going back for my master's, is because I've seen the dark side of talk therapy. Not all therapists, but some will let you keep repeating the same trauma stories over and over again because it keeps you in the chair, which keeps them getting paid. Research in psychology actually backs up how damaging that can be. There was research showing that rumination, which is obsessively going over the same painful memories, doesn't actually help you heal. It actually keeps you stuck in a fight or flight mode, and it keeps your depression and anxiety alive. It wires you to stay in the same state of suffering. When you process your experiences through reflection and meaning making, you tend to heal more. But endless retelling without action just keeps you stuck like a broken record. And let me say, I get it. I used to trauma dump on strangers, definitely at like the bar in my early 20s. But talking about your trauma is not a badge of honor. It's definitely not the way to break the ice either. If your trauma and your past is the only interesting things you can think of to share when you meet someone new, that should be a huge red flag for you. That means that you've let pain become your whole identity, and that's not a strength, that's stagnation. So stop telling everyone about your trauma. Most people don't actually pity you. Most of them will lose respect for you when you present yourself as a victim. Not everyone even needs access to your wounds. Heal them in private and let your strengths speak louder than your past story. Now, it's not your fault what happened to you outside your control, but it is your responsibility to heal. Don't sit in your pain forever. Forgive yourself for not knowing better back then. It means forgiving others, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. If you had real goals for your future, you wouldn't even have time to obsess over your past. That's the shift. Look forward, build something. The past can never save you, but your future might. In reality, most people are not rooting for you. In fact, studies on social comparison show that people actually feel secretly satisfied when they see others struggle because it makes them feel better about their own lives. So think about that. About 80% of people are quietly glad that you're drowning in problems, and the other 20%, they just don't care. You know, you might get a brief, that's tough, before everyone goes back to their own lives, but nobody's sitting around hoping that you finally crawl out of bed. Life will move on with or without you. And let me be clear, replaying the same woe is me story does not make you deep. It does not make you layered, does not make you sound interesting. What makes you stand out is the comeback. That's what people respect, because anyone can stay broken, but not anyone can rebuild. Of course, I've been guilty of this myself. You know, when I was younger, I threw plenty of pity parties, and it's embarrassing to look back on because, you know, yeah, self-pity can be comforting in the moment because it almost feels like you're taking care of yourself, but all it does is waste time and energy that you could be using to build. And if you still sit around drowning in self-pity, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's privilege, because people in survival mode can't even do that. They have rent to pay, they have kids to feed, they have to carry a family on their back. They don't have time to cry about how unfair life is. They have to get up and move. Yet some of you with more opportunity than them are still paralyzed because it feels easier to sulk than to stand. Two people can go through the exact same situation and walk away with completely different stories. You know, let's say you lose your job. One person spirals, oh, God must hate me, the world hates me, nothing works out for me. They use it as proof that life is unfair, and they will sit in bitterness. Meanwhile, the other person in that same situation will stop and say, God, thank you for taking me away from something that wasn't meant for me, or removing me from stagnation. Instead of blaming the world, they take it as a sign to push harder, to try something different, and to push harder. Same event, but two different perspectives. The thing is, the more you wallow, the more your brain wires itself into helplessness. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. You teach your own mind that nothing you do can make a difference. And once you believe that, you stop trying, because they think the world owes them for something that they went through, or that there's no point in trying because it's not going to make a difference. But society does not owe you your comeback. Your family does not owe you rescue. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to the version of you that went through hell, and don't let that be for nothing. You owe it to the version of you that went through hell to not let it be for nothing. Take your pain and turn it into proof of how far you can rise. Life is not fair to anyone. You are not the exception. Are you going to take that unfairness as an excuse or fuel? The side that you choose will define the rest of your life. You'll never move forward if you keep punishing yourself for the past. And I want to be real here. It's not noble to keep beating yourself up. You know, we've all messed up. I've made choices that I wish I hadn't, and coped in ways that I am not proud of. And you know, shame held me hostage. But here's the truth. Shame doesn't transform you. It really chains you. And psychology makes the difference clear. Guilt can be useful because it says, I did something wrong and I can fix it. Meanwhile, shame says I am something wrong. And when you believe that lie, you stay stuck for a very long time. Would you even grow without imperfection? How could you become resilient without first falling flat on your face? Mistakes are feedback because they show you where you need to adjust. I've had to sit with my younger self, the version of me that was just trying to survive turbulence at home, trauma, unhealthy coping, addiction, whatever. You know, and I've had to forgive her. And that's not because what I did was always fine, but I refused to let it define me forever. I told myself, you know, you didn't know better, you were just surviving. But now we do know better, and we're moving forward, damn it. And you can either carry shame like a badge and let it poison everything good that tries to come into your life, or you can drop it and decide your story does not end with your mistakes. And something that gave me peace is that even God doesn't expect perfection from us. He knows we're flawed, He knows we stumble. He's already forgiven you. You're the only one still holding on. So if the Creator Himself isn't asking you to live in shame, why are you demanding more punishment than He ever would? Holding on to anger does not punish the person that hurt you. It really just punishes you. And most of the people that hurt you aren't actually sorry. And I'm sorry to tell you that. You know, they may never apologize, never acknowledge the damage, never give you closure. But forgiveness was never about them anyways. It's about you. You can't move forward with hate rotting in your heart. Resentment poisons your energy, blocks your blessings, and keeps you chained to people that don't even deserve to be in your story anymore? Why give them any more power? Psychology shows that unforgiveness keeps you stuck in fight or flight mode because you're carrying their actions in your body as chronic stress, sleepless nights, disease, and even turn into chronic illness. Meanwhile, forgiveness, on the other hand, lowers anxiety and depression and literally rewires your brain for peace. This isn't just spiritual advice, okay? This is actually backed up in science. And I've had to learn this the hard way because, you know, as the survivor of SA, I thought that if I forgive, then that means that what they did was okay, but that forgiveness isn't saying that that act is okay. It just means you're not letting that act define the rest of your life. It's me saying you don't get to keep your hands on my future. An old saying, you know, anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's exactly what resentment does. You carry it and it corrodes you from the inside. Meanwhile, you know, they're still off living their own life, often never giving a second thought about you. Even God doesn't ask you to carry that. Vengeance is mine, he says. Justice isn't yours to hold on to. And honestly, he'll deal with them far better than you ever could. And you know, if you don't believe in God, call it karma. Either way, life has a way of settling debts that you were never meant to carry. So ask yourself, why would you punish yourself for someone else's mistakes? Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or letting them back in. It means that you're finally free enough to walk away without the chain still attached to your ankle. And stop letting the people that hurt you and your backstory control you and the rest of your story. I recommend getting out a pen or paper or taking some notes on your phone. Number 1, fuel your body right. Your gut and your brain are connected. What you eat isn't just calories, it's chemistry. If you keep living on sugar and alcohol and processed junk, don't be surprised when your brain feels just as heavy and sluggish as your body and your heart. And I know when you're dealing with depression and, you know, trying to process something bad that has happened, leaning into sweet foods and comfort foods might seem really tempting, but it's never a good idea and it's never worth it. Now, you don't have to overhaul everything overnight. I recommend starting small, like adding water, whole foods, add balance. Energy does not come from waiting to be motivated. It comes from fueling yourself like someone who actually matters, and you do matter, and you're worth taking the time to prep some healthier food options for yourself. Number 2, move your body. I don't care if it's a 10-minute walk or some stretching or the gym. It literally releases endorphins, which, you know, fights depression and anxiety. Stop treating exercise like a punishment and start seeing it as medicine, because every time you move, you're starting to tell your body that I want to live. And that'll shock you out of, you know, this cycle, and definitely for someone who's been stuck in survival mode for so long. Number 3, and this is a big one, change your environment. Victimhood festers in toxic spaces. When I started rebuilding, I had to cut off my entire old friendship group in my hometown. I stopped partying, I stopped repeating the same empty nights, and I replaced it with exercise, learning, going back to school, and investing in myself. Social psychology is clear. Toxic environments reinforce victim mentality. If you're constantly surrounded by the same people who complain, self-destruct, and live in these cycles of drama over and over, you will absorb it whether you think you are or you're not. Healing doesn't just come from what you add to your life, but what you remove. Number 4. Cleanse your space and your identity. Start with your room or your house. Clean it, wash your sheets, take a real deep clean shower, wash the version of you that has been stuck in the pity party, and then open your closet and look at what's hanging there. The party girl outfits, the sad sweatpants, you know, the clothes tied to your old identity. You know, for me, when I did my huge closet haul years ago, pretty much all I owned was dark, black, you know, party-like clothes that kind of made me look almost a little scary because I was trying to look intimidating because I was honestly scared of people and I wanted to push people away. Versus now, the version of myself that I wanted to become, I bought clothes that kind of, you know, demand respect and elegance. If you're trying to step into a new chapter, you gotta stop dressing like the past. Create an environment that reflects, you know, who you strive to be, not who you're leaving behind. And obviously that goes for more than just clothes. It also goes for your hair. You know, cut off your dead ends, cut off all that extra weight that you don't need anymore. Number 5, protect your energy. Boundaries are not optional. If being around someone makes you feel smaller or hopeless, That's not a relationship, that's an anchor, and you don't need more anchor. Number 6, create space for solitude. There's so much bad news on all the time, and so many videos of people on TikTok, just talking about all their problems and woe is me. So step away from that, because no wonder you can't hear yourself think or hear God or hear your intuition. People used to have their best ideas and their aha moments in silence, when the world got quiet. Alone time isn't loneliness. It's the space where clarity, creativity, and divine guidance will actually show up for you. If you want direction, you need to be quiet enough to hear it and stop, listening to that same really sad music you used to listen to all the time. I used to listen to so much sad, goth, angry metal music all the time versus now, I really listen to a lot of vintage oldies and gospel music in the morning that really uplifts me, and it gets me out of that, really negative headspace and puts me in a headspace of gratitude. Number 7, it's really important to build consistency, not perfection. Stop waiting for motivation to save you. Build routines instead. Build a new routine. Not in a rigid, perfection kind of way like you see all the time with people in their perfect curated morning routines, but create anchors that you can return to when life knocks you a little off track. Because motivation fades, but consistency will rewire it. Investing in yourself isn't vanity, it's your responsibility. When you care for your body, your space, and your habits, you're showing up. You're proving to yourself that you can show up for yourself, and you're showing the world that you are worth something. Do that long enough, and the victim version of you won't even recognize the person you've become. When you're stuck in that state of learned helplessness, it's not the world that's chained you. It's the story that you keep telling yourself about your limits. Freedom will start the moment you start acting against that story, because action is how you teach your spirit that life is still movable and that you're not trapped. You're only waiting to remember your own strength. You don't get to stay in victim mode and build the life you want. You can have one or the other, not both. Life will never be fair. Bad things are going to continue to happen to you that you don't ask for and don't deserve. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to do about it now. So you've got the blueprint now. Take care of your body, clean your space, cut off the anchors, create new cycles. Give yourself the silence to hear what God or your own intuition is trying to guide you. That's the work. That's the way out. The rest, that's on you, because no one is coming to save you, and frankly, nobody cares. And honestly, that's the best news you'll ever hear, because that means you're the one in power. You're the one that gets to decide where your story goes next. So stop waiting, get up, change your environment, change your habits, and change your life, because the victim version of you has had its chapter. This next chapter is about the survivor, the creator. And trust me, that version of you is worth meeting. If this video woke you up, don't just sit on it. Please share it with someone who you think could use the same slap of reality. Also, please subscribe and like this video, because I am not done being unfiltered with you. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.